When you think of a Harley-Davidson, you probably picture big performance bikes with loud, powerful exhausts that make your neighbors peek out the window at 7 a.m. But not every Harley hits like a thunderclap. In fact, some of them hit the showroom floor with a thud and stay there. Dealers across the country are struggling to unload certain models. We're talking about bikes that were supposed to be game changers, crowd pleasers, or bold steps into the future. Instead, they gathered dust, sat through endless markdowns, and quietly rolled off the production line with no fanfare. So what happened? Did Harley misread the room? Did they mess with a formula that didn't need fixing? Or did they just release some bikes at the wrong time, with the wrong pitch, to the wrong crowd? Either way, here are the 7 Harley-Davidson motorcycles that dealers are desperate to dump and why no one wants them. If you want to know more about other motorcycle brands or just different motorcycles in general, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps me keep putting out important information like this to keep you informed on the industry's best and worst motorcycles. Number 7. The HarleyDavidson Nightster. On the surface, it seems like Harley finally decided to drag the Sportster lineup into the 21st century. You've got the 975cc Revolution Max engine, same family as the Paname, making about 90 horsepower, liquid-cooled, lightweight frame, and a low seat height. Sounds promising, right? Well, the problem is, nobody's sure who this bike is actually for. Traditional Harley fans take one look at the radiator, the modern styling, and the high-revving engine and go, what the hell is that supposed to be? It doesn't shake, rumble, or grunt like the air-cooled Sportsters they grew up with. Meanwhile, new riders, who might be open to the modern look and ride feel, aren't exactly running to spend $13,500 on a brand name they associate with their uncle's midlife crisis. And let's not forget the exhaust note. One of Harley's biggest selling points has always been that signature growl. The Nightster unfortunately sounds more like a ninja with a sore throat. Harley was hoping this would be the bike to pull in Gen Z riders who want tech and refinement, but here's the twist. That crowd already has a long list of cheaper, more powerful, and frankly cooler looking options from brands like Yamaha, Triumph, and KTM. So now you've got dealers who ordered these things in bulk, probably thought they'd fly off the floor, and they're sitting there silently watching every 48 and Softail get test rides while the Nightsters collect dust. To be fair, it's not a bad bike. It handles well, it's relatively light for a Harley, and the tech package isn't bad either. Traction control, multiple ride modes, and ABS come standard. But Harley fans didn't ask for a refined middleweight, they asked for soul. And this thing's got about as much soul as a Bluetooth speaker at a dive bar. Dealers are doing their best to move them. You'll see incentives, demo rides, extended warranties, heck, they might even throw in a jacket and a free coffee mug. But until Harley figures out how to blend modern engineering with the grit and swagger people expect from the brand, the Nightster is going to stay the black sheep of the lineup. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Paname 1250 Special. The fact that this bike is on this list is a bit sad because the Paname 1250 Special is actually good, like really good. Harley swung for the fences with this one, trying to elbow their way into the ADV bike market, and for their first attempt, it's surprisingly competitive. But just because you build a great tool doesn't mean you're going to find people who want to use it. Let's start with the specs. The Paname 1250 Special runs the same Revolution Max V-twin engine, but tuned up to 150 horsepower. That's not just strong for a Harley, it's strong, period. It's got semi-active suspension, an adaptive ride height system which lowers the bike at a stop so shorter riders don't tip over like bowling pins, multiple ride modes, touchscreen display, cornering ABS, traction control, the works. It even weighs about the same as the BMW GS, which it's clearly gunning for. So what went wrong? Well, this isn't Harley's crowd. Adventure bike riders are a different breed. These are the folks who live in clim gear, eat dehydrated trail meals by choice, and spend weekends trying to get stuck in rivers. They're loyal to BMW, KTM, Honda, and Yamaha because those brands have proven themselves over decades in off-road reliability and global adventure travel. Harley, meanwhile, shows up to the party wearing a brand new Gore-Tex jacket and says, "Hey guys, I've heard we're going camping." People were skeptical, and still are. You're not going to convince a GS owner to hop on a Harley overnight, no matter how fancy the tech or competitive the power. Then there's the price, $25,000 for the special trim. That's right in GS 1250 and Tiger 1200 territory, and to the average Harley rider, that's a lot to ask for a bike that doesn't look or sound anything like a Harley. It's tall, it's tech heavy, and it doesn't rumble at stoplights, it whirs. The diehards don't even recognize it as part of the family. Dealers got excited when this bike launched. Big marketing push, flashy adventure videos, hopes of tapping into a brand new market. But now, 2 years later, a lot of those bikes are still sitting untouched in the back corner of a showroom, parked next to an empty mannequin wearing a dusty ADV helmet. Number 5. HarleyDavidson Roadster. Now here's a bike that should have been a hit. The Roadster had all the right ingredients: stripped down style, aggressive stance, a dash of cafe racer flair, but for some reason it never quite found its audience. And now, dealers are practically begging people to remember it even exists. Launched back in 2016 as part of the Sportster family, the Roadster was Harley's answer to riders who wanted something a little more nimble, a little more modern, and maybe just a bit more sporty. It had that slammed rear end, the chopped fenders, the 43mm inverted forks, and a low-rise handlebar that made it feel like it was itching to carve through corners. Visually, it was basically the tough guy version of a cafe racer, and it pulled it off. Power-wise, it packed the familiar 1200cc Evolution V-twin, good for around 66 horsepower and 73 pound-feet of torque. Nothing mind-blowing, but enough grunt to get off the line with some attitude. It had a nice bark to the exhaust, plenty of torque down low, and it rode like a Sportster that went to the gym and shaved its beard. So what went wrong? Well, the Roadster ended up in this weird no man's land. It wasn't raw and old school enough for traditional Harley purists who wanted big chrome and long wheelbases, and it wasn't quite modern or sporty enough for the cafe racer crowd who were already gravitating toward bikes like the Triumph Thruxton or Yamaha XSR 900. Plus, let's talk about comfort. This thing looked cool, but it rode like a punishment if you were on it longer than 45 minutes. The seat was basically a padded frisbee, the rear shocks were stiff, and the riding position put your knees way up high like you were squatting at a red light. Not exactly tour ready. Then there was the price. At around $11,000, it was more expensive than the Iron 883 and creeping close to bigger bikes like the Softail Standard. And for that kind of money, a lot of riders figured why not just go all in and get something with more comfort, power, and versatility. Harley tried to market it as a street ripper with heritage roots, but the messaging never stuck. Some riders loved the looks, but didn't like the ride. Others liked the ride, but wanted more tech. And a whole bunch of people didn't even know it existed. It was like Harley's cool art school project that got put on a shelf and forgotten after graduation. And now you can still find them sitting in showrooms, barely used, sometimes priced well under 10 grand. Dealers are clearing them out, hoping someone sees the potential and doesn't mind the quirks. Here's the real kicker though. The Roadster would have thrived in today's retro market. Just with a little more comfort, better suspension, and some upgraded tech, it could have gone toe-to-toe with a new generation of modern classics. But Harley pulled the plug too soon, and now it's just another what if in the brand's long lineup of near misses. Number 4. HarleyDavidson Street 500. The Street 500 was Harley's attempt to build an entry-level bike for brand new riders, international markets, and the training course circuit. It debuted with a ton of fanfare, especially since Harley never plays in the sub 750cc sandbox. And for the price, around 7 grand brand new, it seemed like a smart move. Except, everything about this bike screamed budget. And not the good kind of budget, more like rental car budget. The Street 500 was built on a brand new platform, one that was manufactured in India and later in Kansas City, and it featured a liquid-cooled Revolution X engine. Sounds fancy, right? But in reality, it was a 494cc V-twin that made around 34 horsepower, and it didn't feel like a Harley, didn't sound like one, heck, barely even looked like one. The materials were cheap, the welds looked rushed, and even the switches on the handlebars felt like they came out of a lawnmower factory. The suspension felt mushy, brakes felt spongy, and the paint finishes looked like they were applied with a can of Plasti-Dip during a thunderstorm. But the biggest issue? No one wanted it. The new riders Harley was targeting still leaned toward Rebel 500 or Yamaha R3, bikes that felt sharper, lighter, and more polished. And the seasoned Harley crowd? They wouldn't touch the Street 500 with a 10-foot ape hanger. Even Harley's own riding schools started souring on it. Instructors complained about how it handled. Students found it awkward and clunky compared to other beginner bikes. You could almost hear the Street 500 wheeze as it tried to keep up with a pack of Ninjas and MT-03s during parking lot drills. It got so bad that Harley quietly killed off the Street 500 and its slightly bigger brother, the Street 750. But here's the kicker, some dealerships still have them. New old stock, sitting in the back, occasionally rolled out for a clearance sale or demo ride, and no matter how low they drop the price, riders walk past them like they're haunted. The Street 500 had potential, it just never lived up to it. Number 3. HarleyDavidson FXDR114. You know when a brand tries something totally bold, throws all the rules out the window, and everyone's like, whoa, Harley really did that? That was the FXDR114. This bike looked like a dragster mated with a stealth fighter. It had that long low profile, a huge intake that looked like it could suck in pigeons, and enough aluminum to make Apple jealous. It was part of Harley's push to modernize the Softail line. Big engines, sharper geometry, better suspension, and it came packing some serious heat. A 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 V-twin, cranking out around 90 horsepower and 119 pound-feet of torque. This thing moved. Straight line performance was brutal. Hammer the throttle and it launched like it was angry at the road. It sounded like a Harley, felt like a Harley, and looked like it had wandered off the set of Tron. And that's part of the problem. See, Harley guys, traditional Harley guys, didn't know what to do with it. It had a weird rear fender, a massive solo seat, and a riding position that made you feel like you were being stretched out for physical therapy. It wasn't a cruiser, it wasn't a drag bike, it wasn't a tourer. It was something in the middle, and that confused people. Now add in the price, over 21 grand for a bike that most people weren't even sure how to categorize. At that price, you could get a road glide, a street glide, or even dip into the low end of Harley's touring line. And those bikes, they had long distance comfort, tons of community support, parts galore. The FXDR, it had performance and vibes. Let's not forget the weight. Despite all the lightweight aluminum in the swing arm and subframe, the FXDR still tipped the scales at around 668 pounds wet. That's heavy for a performance cruiser, especially one with mid-corner manners that felt more like a freight train than a canyon carver. Dealers couldn't move them. You could practically hear the sales pitch shifting into desperation mode. Yeah man, it's futuristic. It's like Harley meets spaceship. You want to stand out, right? Look at that air intake. It looks like a jet engine. Come on, don't you want to ride what everyone else rides? Do ya? They pulled the plug on it after just one model year. One. Dealers with leftover stock were slashing prices like it was Black Friday. And even now, used FXDRs sit on showroom floors or Facebook Marketplace, waiting for someone with just the right amount of weird taste and love for aggressive geometry. Number 2. Harley-Davidson VRod. Ah yes, the rebel child. The VRod was Harley's loudest, fastest, most misunderstood experiment, and it might be the only bike they've ever made that scared the die-hard purists as much as it excited the speed junkies. Launched in 2001, the VRod was the result of Harley teaming up with Porsche. Yes, that Porsche. It featured a liquid-cooled 60-degree Revolution V-twin engine that screamed to nearly 9,000 RPM and made around 115 horsepower. That's not a typo, 115. In Harley terms, that's warp speed. And that engine? It didn't sound like a Harley. It didn't shake like a Harley. It didn't feel like a Harley. No growl, no baritone thunder. Instead, it whined and snarled like a sport bike with a deeper voice. Hardcore traditionalists were horrified. Forums lit up. Some called it the Harley for squids. Others said it was a betrayal. And the rest of the riding world just scratched their heads wondering what to make of it. But here's the wild part. It was good. The VRod handled well for a cruiser. It was smooth, stable, and pulled like a freight train. You could smoke a lot of bikes off the line without breaking a sweat, and it had the kind of build quality you'd expect from a German-American tag team. So, what happened? First, Harley's core audience didn't want it. It didn't look like a Harley, it didn't sound like one, and the ergonomics were kind of brutal. Super long reach for the bars, feet stretched all the way forward. You didn't ride the VRod so much as lie down on it like a gym bench. Second, Harley never really committed to it. They made different versions, the Night Rod, the Muscle, the Screamin' Eagle, but never gave it a clear identity. Was it a power cruiser, a drag bike, a street rod? Depends on which year you ask. That confusion didn't help sales. Then came the price. By its final model year in 2017, the VRod Muscle cost $16,500, putting it in competition with not only other Harley cruisers, but also Ducati Diavels, Yamaha VMAXs, and naked sport bikes that offered more tech, more agility, and less back pain. Harley quietly killed it off, and guess what? The internet lit up again, but this time it was love. Riders who never gave the VRod a second glance started to realize, hey, that thing was kinda awesome. Now, the used market is weirdly hot for clean VRods. Collectors want them, custom builders love them, but back when they were new, dealers couldn't hand them out fast enough. Harley tried to evolve with the VRod. They just might have evolved too far, too fast. And in the end, it became a perfect example of how being different doesn't always mean you'll be appreciated, at least not while you're different. Number 1. HarleyDavidson LiveWire. Alright, so picture this. It's 2019 and Harley-Davidson decides to go electric. And not just dabble, they go all in. They roll out the LiveWire, a sleek futuristic electric motorcycle that makes more high-pitched whirring than any rumble. And they slap a price tag on it just shy of 23 grand. You can guess what happened next. Now let's be clear, from a technical standpoint, the LiveWire was awesome. It looked sharp, kind of like a futuristic Street Fighter with Harley DNA tucked somewhere deep inside. It had instant torque, doing 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds. That's quicker than most sports cars. And it wasn't just fast, it was buttery smooth. No gears, no clutch, just twist and zoom. The ride was whisper quiet, the handling was tight, and the fit and finish were top tier. So why did it crash and burn like an overheated iPhone? Well, a few reasons. Let's start with the obvious. Harley guys didn't want it. This is a brand whose core buyers wear leather, live for loud pipes, and treat internal combustion like a sacred tradition. They don't want whispery EVs that sound like electric razors, and definitely not ones that cost more than a street glide. It was like handing a kale smoothie to a guy who just ordered a triple bacon cheeseburger. It might be healthy, it might even taste good, but it's not what they came for. Then there's the range. At launch, the LiveWire claimed around 95 to 146 miles per charge, depending on how you ride. That's fine for city commutes, but what about those long Sunday rides? Harley folks like to ride out to nowhere, then back again. You can't exactly roll up to a rural diner and ask, "Hey, mind if I plug this into your wall for an hour or two?" That just doesn't fly. Charging infrastructure? Also a problem. If you didn't live in a major city with a fast charger nearby, you were out of luck. And while level 3 fast charging could juice it up in about an hour, home charging took forever, like overnight forever. Now sprinkle in the price again and you've got a bike that costs more than most of Harley's touring models, but can't go as far, can't carry as much, and doesn't even make noise. The average Harley customer just laughed and walked away. And the new riders? Most weren't about to drop Tesla money on a motorcycle that no one else was riding. Dealers were desperate. You'd walk in and see LiveWires parked awkwardly next to Street Glides and Road Kings like the nerdy cousin nobody talks to at the barbecue. They tried everything. Rebates, incentives, free charging perks. At one point, some dealers were chopping off thousands just to clear them off the floor. But here's the twist. The bike itself wasn't the problem. People who rode it loved it. It was fast, smooth, cool looking, and had a high-tech dash with Bluetooth and navigation baked in. The problem was the branding. Calling it a Harley-Davidson confused everyone. It didn't belong in the lineup. It was like watching your grandpa suddenly show up to a rave in LED sneakers. Just weird vibes all around. Eventually, Harley admitted defeat, but didn't kill it. Instead, they spun it off into its own thing, LiveWire the brand. Now it's its own electric sub-brand with newer models like the LiveWire 1 and Del Mar, and it's marketed more like a Tesla on two wheels than a hog. Which honestly makes way more sense. Still, the original LiveWire? It was a sacrificial lamb. The guinea pig. The expensive lesson. And even today, if you walk into some dealerships, you'll still see one sitting quietly in the corner, fully charged, fully discounted, and still not going anywhere. But one thing's for sure, the LiveWire will go down in history as one of Harley's boldest and weirdest moves. It tried to drag the company into the future, but forgot to bring the crowd along for the ride. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next video.